All right. Got my buddy Rick on the podcast. What's going on, man?
Hey, JP, how you doing?
Rick
Glad to be on it.
Weiler.
Weiler.
It's Weiler. So we were talking the other day and Rick goes, I got to bust your chops, JP. You called me Rick Wheeler, Ricky Wheeler. And I'm like, wow, I'm so sorry, buddy.
No, it's funny because everybody kind of, when they want to bust my chops, they call me Ricky Wheeler. And then anytime I make a reservation or call anywhere, it's Ricky Wheeler. But
Ricky
that's
Wheeler.
all right, JP.
That's all I was trying to do is busting your chops.
Yeah, we've been friends long enough.
Yeah. So let's talk about how we met each other. I'll tell you, the very first time I heard your voice, 2014, it would have been probably, I'd say August. I had just moved to Arizona and I drew an elk tag. I told the story when I had Dwayne and Nick on. Nick connects me with Dwayne and Dwayne says, just put in for Unit 1 elk hunt. You'll draw it. No doubt. No drought. And I was just moved here from Wisconsin. So I was a non-resident moving in. I had 3 non-resident points and then 1 resident point. So I drew with 4 total points. Lucky. Now I'm sitting on 8 points and I haven't drawn yet. But I ended up drawing Unit 1 and I hired Dwayne Adams Outfitting and he paired me up with you. He goes, I got just the guy for you. He's a killer. you know how Dwayne talks. He goes, he's a killer. You're going to love him. And so you called me up and we chatted. And I want to say this because this is pretty good. We were talking and I'm trying to be all, big time. I'm like, well, what are my expectations? And you kind of walked me through that. But here's what you said. And we'll, as we get into questions about elk hunting down the road of this podcast, it'll be evident of why I'm going to ask you certain questions. But you said, if you'll just trust me, we're going to kill you an elk. And I'm like, well, I just want to kill an elk. There was one point in the hunt. I remember when you were telling, and you said this when we talked, you said, if I tell you to run, this is on the phone call, pre-hunting, you got to run. And what I mean is we may do some things that maybe you've never done before. If I tell you to run, you got to run. And I remember probably day 2, day 3, we were hunting a spot and there was a big herd bull. And I remember you're behind me, you're going, run, run. And I'm like sneaking, like I'm whitetail hunting in Wisconsin with my bow. Yeah. And then I just remembered you grabbed my straps and you're running with me. Like I think my feet were off the ground. You're trying to get me into that herd bull. Yeah. And so that was our first time we ever met over the phone.
And it was a great hunt, wasn't it, JP? That was still probably one of my top 5 elk hunting hunts, as in how many bulls we were in, how many chances. I mean, legitimately could have killed. That was just an unbelievable year and unbelievable hunting.
It was the best elk hunt I've ever been on in my life. And I tell everybody that, that we're spoiled living here in Arizona. 13 bulls, if you remember, that we were in 50 yards or closer that we could have shot. And that's 13 bulls. Yeah. And then I ended up shooting that one and he's right behind me. He's just up here, right above me right here on day 10. And it could have shot the bull the first hour. Yeah.
Well, JP, remember I had to blow on my bugle to scare one bull away because I thought you were going to kill him.
So let me tell that story quick. I remember it was probably 11 o'clock. We were done hunting, maybe whatever. I don't remember what time, 11 o'clock or so during the day. And we're coming down this knob. We're headed back to camp. And you said, it was you and your brother, Johnny. Uh-huh. And you said, hey, stop here. We always get bulls to answer us on that ridge over there.
Yeah.
And you stopped right there and you blew your bugle. Sure enough, bull bugles. So we go running up in there. And, I'm a very beginner elk hunter. At this point in my life, I've shot a bull in Colorado, a bull in Wyoming, and a cow in Colorado. So I've only elk hunted, half a dozen times. And we go moving in and all of a sudden this bull's bugling and we go right after him because he's raking a tree. And if people don't know that, when they rake trees, they close their eyes. So when they're raking, you can go. And I remember I dropped to my knees and I'm at like 20, I think I was at 28 yards. And I'm like, I go to draw and I can't remember if you yelled or what you did. I just
barked through my tube. Just like, hey.
And then he ended up bolting and then you called him right back into us. And you're like, I didn't want you to shoot that bull. I'm like, I wasn't going to shoot him. Although he was about a 270, I think 280 bull. He was right around there. But when I'm on my knees and that bull was 25 yards away and he's standing up raking a tree, they look ginormous. Big animals.
And I'm sure we'll get into that in a podcast talking about what perception is, what reality is.
Yeah.
Camp talk, all that.
Yeah. Well, why don't you introduce yourself to the Fit Archer listeners and tell us, who you are, where you live, where you grew up, how you got into hunting, how in the world you get into guiding for one of the top outfitting businesses, I think.
That's actually a pretty good story.
Yeah. Let's hear it.
So name's Rick Weiler. Born and raised in Arizona. I'm actually a third generation Arizona. My grandpa was here before it was even a state. So we got deep roots here. Been hunting and fishing ever since I could walk. Me and my brother, who also guides with Dwayne, we were raised in the outdoors. You know, we always look forward to going to the White Mountains to fish and not forward to go hunt. And it's been a huge part of my life. Now, the big game hunting wasn't as big when we were growing up as the fishing and the bird hunting and stuff like that. So that's something we developed over the years. When John and I decided to really get into big game hunting, because my dad wasn't a big game hunter. He would do a little bit, but not a whole lot. Just like anything else, like we fish, we became 100% obsessed and dove completely in it. And the one thing that kind of led me to the guiding road is I wanted to be a better hunter. I was out there, 16, 17, 18 years old, trying to figure this whole thing out, like many guys just walking through the woods, walking through the desert, trying to find stuff. And I knew that wasn't working. So we started connecting with people that knew what they were doing. And we would just go out with them. And which, by the time I got hired in the fire department, a lot of guys hunted there, got connected with them, went hunting with them as much as I could. Ended up meeting Dwayne Adams through one of his guides that he worked for the fire department. He just recently passed from lung cancer, but he was one of Dwayne's guides. I never wanted to be a guide, JP, ever. I just liked going hunting. I just liked hanging out. I just liked, I would help cook. I would go glass. It was the best couple years of my life. And then one day, I'll never forget it, we were on the mountain with Dwayne and the whole crew. We had one more hunter to kill. Dwayne sits down to me, starts asking me. It was actually a late season bull tag. There's 3 bulls out there. And he was asking, what do you think they're going to do? And I'm like, Dwayne, I think they're going to stay. This, do this, do this, do this. And he looks at me and he goes, you're ready, son. I'll get you a hunter next year. That was my interview. And this was after a few years of hanging out. So fast forward, I think this is going to be my 17th or 18th season. I'd have to look back at my paperwork of being a guide for Dwayne. So, like I said, I never wanted to be a guide, but I love it. I do love guiding. 2 reasons: you get to meet a lot of great people, and the other reason is I get to hunt elk every year. I get to hunt kaibab mule deer every year, and that's something you can't do in Arizona. Like you said, you have 8 points. What are you going to get a tag? Hopefully at 10, 12, 15, who knows? My brother has 19 points, hasn't gotten a tag. So I get to go every year. I'm hunting every year. And that's the one thing I love guiding for, is because I get to do that. And I'm outdoors. So.
Well, yeah, it's made you a straight up, just like Dwayne said, you and your brothers made you guys straight up killers. Nick as well. And Nick hasn't been guiding near as long as you guys have, but he has become a straight up killer. Yeah. Like, you're just always in the outdoors. I think about it all the time. I spend a lot of time when I don't get to hunt Arizona, I don't draw a tag here, I go to another state. And as much experience as you think you would get hunting other elk, when you have to go to other states, it's not Arizona. I've thought about this multiple times. It's just the selfishness in me. I would probably gain more knowledge in elk hunting, staying back and not hunting a few elk a few years, but just tagging along with you guys. Mm-hmm. Because the number of elk encounters that you get per season, it takes me on an over-the-counter tag 5 seasons to get the number of encounters you get in probably the first 5 or 6 days. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? So, I mean,
absolutely.
Shortening the learning curve.
And that's unit 1. And we'll talk about some of the units, hopefully, in this podcast. But Arizona is Disneyland of elk hunting. I mean, it truly is. I can go to some of the slower, what we consider not as good units, but I'm still going to have encounters every day. We're still going to be mixing it up. It's just an unbelievable state with these elk.
But all you non-residents, don't worry about it. There's no elk here.
Yeah.
No. There's no elk here. I mean, you're taking.
No, we need them to put in and come hunt with me.
Absolutely. And I do want people to, I tell absolutely everybody, Ricky, everybody that when they get a tag, they've got to hunt with Dwayne Adams Outfitting. I mean, from what he charges to what he gives to his camps, to his guides, to the camaraderie in the camp. There's nothing like it in any place I've ever been in any guided hunt. I've been on some good guided hunts. I've been on some great outfitted hunts, but nothing like that. And I mean, just from kaibab to coos deer to elk, the whole all around, man, it's a world-class experience. And you guys make that good.
Yeah. And Dwayne, like I said, even with my situation, you just don't become a guide. You have to be an apprentice. You have to be, back then we called them tag-alongs. And then he slowly, and I didn't realize it until later in my career, and I watched him do with some of the other guys coming up, is he watches you. It's an internship. And then when he feels you're ready, you get a client. And then you can never not get a client.
I must be failing because all the hunts I've been on with him, I've never once been asked to get a client yet. I'm just kidding.
Oh, hey, you can have my guys, JP. If you want the stress and hassle.
No, I know. Nick has asked me multiple times, hey, you want to be a guide? Just get your guy's license, come apprenticeship. Yeah. And I'm the selfish one. I'm like, no, because number one, I don't have the free time. It takes a lot to be a guide. That's a question I have for you. It takes a lot to be a guide. The stress, the time off, managing family, all that kind of stuff. Talk about that a little bit, because I think a lot of people get into it and think, oh, I can be a full-time guide. I think that's probably very difficult.
They will starve. Because the thing is, in Arizona, there's only so many hunts you can guide. So you take myself, who I'm one of Dwayne's kaibab guides. Well, if I'm in the kaibab, I can't hunt a late season elk. I can't hunt coos deer. I can't hunt some of the mule deer units because I'm in the kaibab. So you know what I mean? There's only so many hunts you can hunt in Arizona. Time-wise, I am very blessed. I work for a Valley Fire Department, so I have a lot of flexibility in my schedule with getting time off, trading shifts, stuff like that. So that, especially like you take an elk hunt, that's 14 days. 16 by the time, if you go up early, which we always do, 17, 18 if we stay for the rifle hunt, which sometimes we do, or just tearing down camp. So that's 18, 19 days. My wife, let's just say she goes on very nice trips in October when I come home. Or she has very nice trips when I'm up at elk camp.
I was going to say, even if you had all the time in the world and all the money in the world, you still got to get past the spouse part. You still got to get past the wife part.
And my wife is unbelievable when it comes to the hunting season. And it's a give and take. JP, you've been married. I've been married for over 20 years. Like I said, I take her on a nice trip, but it is hard leaving that long. And another thing that a lot of guys don't think about when they're like, I want to be a guide. Like you said, I want to be a full-time guide. Those 14 days, every time I start my truck, I'm burning fuel. Wear and tear on tires, everything. It all adds up. I'm a guide that doesn't need the guiding money, which is a great place to be in. I don't need to pay my bills with it. And like I said, that's with my other job. I'm very blessed because of it. And a lot of young, I don't want to call them young guides. Everybody's young to me. So now that I'm well over 40, they don't realize that, and they end up starving. And the thing is, with your pickup, your side-by-sides, if you're not maintaining those during your hunting season, they start breaking on you. And there's nothing worse than having your pickup go down. Now you have a hunter with you who spent a lot of money to go hunting, and now you can't go hunting because your truck's in the shop or your tire's flat. So anytime I talk to a young guide or a young person that thinks about guiding, I lay it all out for them. Dwayne has made a very, very good career, a very successful business from it. I wouldn't want to do it. I mean, that's why I love being a guide. I just show up and I go hunting. I don't have to worry about insurance, for a business. I don't have to worry about permits, running a camp, food, all the stuff that goes in it. I just show up and hunt, and I go home and enjoy. I enjoy the best parts of it. So yeah, it's a tough business, especially in Arizona, just because the way the seasons line out.
Well, just talking about the stress of it, my brother and my best friend, my oldest friend, had just drawn this year. They've never coos deer hunted, and so they drew late coos deer rifle tag, and I'm already stressed out about it because I'm taking them. Like not guiding them, obviously I said, hey, come on down and we'll hunt. I'll set my tent up and I'll have everything ready, pick you guys up from the airport and we'll go out and we'll wax them. And I'm already, it's July 22nd and this isn't until November. And I'm already stressed about it. I got a whole bunch of hunts in between there because those guys are coming and they're relying on me, feeling like I'm going to have to do the homework and all that kind of stuff. I can't imagine if somebody was paying you on an Arizona tag that are few and far between, when you get the stress that comes with that.
Correct. It's unbelievable stress. And it took me a lot of years to the point where I'd start sleeping all night in camp and not only getting 2-3 hours of sleep, stomach aches, all that stuff, because it weighs on you. I mean, especially because you really create a bond with your hunter and you really enjoy being with this person, and you get their backs. 14 days, you get a long history of this person, and they want to kill an elk. And, it's still archery hunting in the end. It is still archery hunting. It's not a gun. It's not we have hundreds of elk, but it's still, you're still trying to get within 50, 60 yards, and everything still has to go perfect. It's still, archery is still that one key that I can't overcome. It just is what it is. And the stress is unbelievable.
And then you throw in, you get a bad client, not that you get, but last year when I tagged along a little bit up in the Kaibab, there was an incident with just some, some things that happened. And I remember me and Longhair, Nick.
Yeah.
We were just kind of glassing off to the side, and I'm like, I'm sure glad I'm not a guide right now, because buddy Nick is getting reamed one side up the other, and just, you guys handle it really well. You guys handle it with grace, so you're true professionals too.
And that's that happens every archery elk hunt. And the reason being, JP, it's a marathon. It's 14 days. I'm sure some of your listeners have done 14-day hunts, but not a lot. A lot of guys, 5-6 days is kind of that tripping point. 14 days is a long, long hunt. And especially with the archery elk, where that rut goes in these ups and downs and it's cycling, and some days you're running a gun and you can't get out of them. The next day you don't hear a peep, and it's that up and down, and it mentally kills people. Now, I've hunted elk for so much. To me, this is just the rut. But for a guy that's waited 15 years, coming from Pennsylvania, that's watched every video out, every Primos video out there, where you just toot your horn and the bulls walk in. Yeah, it's not that way. It's still hunting wild animals on public land. And so what happens is they boil over, and so do the guides. The guides wear down. I get tired. I get frustrated. I just call that's we come back to neutral ground after one of those. And that's part of guiding. You have to deal with people. And my other job, what the fire department has taught me with that, I work with all walks of life. I come in contact with all walks of life. I generally work with very alpha male type. So little spits and spats, that's just kind of the business. So, but yeah, I do recall that. And honestly, it was, he just got frustrated. Hunter just got frustrated. He was a nice guy afterwards, probably felt ashamed a little bit. And the thing is, if those guys get that way and they don't come out of that rut, and not elk rut, but come out of that little depression that they're in, it'll ruin their hunt. So as a guide, you got to get them back up, get them feeling, especially when people start missing. If we shoot you missing, now you become a little social worker as a guide.
That is good. So we hunted 12 days together, Ricky, and tell me, you just said on every hunt you have was I a pain?
No, JP, you're a guide's dream. Here's the reason. And I don't
ask that. I wonder, I'm like, hey, I want to get better as a hunter too.
Yeah. So you were in good enough shape where you could go 14 days. And that's the key for these elk hunts. I can only push as hard as my hunter can go. Right. A lot of people from back east come out and hunt with me. First of all, they've never seen 8,000 feet elevation in their life. They've never seen a mountain. I had a guy from Alabama about a couple of years ago tell me he's never seen a rock over the size of a softball out where he lives, because everything's just flat and dirt, So it's the terrain. And So you got to come out in shape. You got to, and I'm not saying you need to be able to lift a lot of weight. Just be able to walk 5 miles, and then I can do the rest. I can work with that. You could obviously do that. The other thing, JP, is you knew your equipment. You knew how to shoot. You knew what to do. You knew how to set up. I didn't have to babysit, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but you knew what to do. If I said get ready, release was on, bow was loaded, arrow was in, and you're ready to go. Guys need to learn how to do that. Is when they come out, you need to be able to shoot, and you need to be able to get yourself ready. You need to shoot in any position possible, under trees, around rocks, from the knees, standing up. It's just the way they're going to come in. And another thing is when the bulls come in, you got to be able to shoot fast. So draw, punch the arrow. A lot of guys, they want to draw, they want to hold, they want to do the whole, sight, everything, squeeze. It's got to go fast. You got to think when these bulls are rutting cows, they're in and out, in and out. You're going to have your shot window, and it's going to be very, very small a lot of times. And you need to be able to make that shot. Another thing, JP, is you knew enough about the woods where I could stay back and send you forward. I didn't need to be with you all the time, which is, I don't care either way. I actually like being right up front, or right behind you because I want to be there when the shot happens. But I don't remember we were out on the point, and I made you crawl up to the edge to look on the bull on the bench. See, stuff like that, where the bull's bedded, he's right there. If 2 of us go, that's double the chances of him seeing us. Or if I can just get you to push out and you make the right decision, yes, no, we're going to shoot him, where to shoot him, and I feel comfortable with you, that we have a better shot of killing that animal. Where 2 of us, it's just one more thing for them to see.
Well, you said something I want to elaborate on there, Ricky, and it's being able to shoot fast. So I want to say a couple of things from a practicing standpoint there. So most people, when they're shooting bow, this, if you go to any range, everybody's got their kind of what they go through. So they got a shot sequence. I come back, I draw, lock into my anchor point, level my bubble, squeeze through. That's excellent to do because it's
absolutely
muscle memory. And you got to do that. You can't start today if you're going to elk hunt. Like the range is now full at Ben Avery. 4 weeks ago, there was nobody there. Now everybody's getting ready. So they're missing out on very, very important muscle memory building activities. So you've got to do that, but you've got to practice just what you said. Still being able to squeeze through your shot and follow through and do all your shot sequence, but you got to be able to do it fast. And there's nothing better than timed practice. Some people will disagree with this. I'm a 100% believer in it for that reason. So maybe I go out and on Mondays and Wednesdays, it's all just skill development. I'm just shooting 15, 20 arrows at a spot, following through, just really working on my skill. I got to throw some practice and training in there with an elevated heart rate. I should drop down, do a couple push-ups, do a couple air squats, get my heart rate up, learn how to breathe through shooting with an elevated heart rate. It mimics adrenaline, and it mimics running at 8,000 feet or walking fast and an elk coming in. But the other thing you got to do is timed shooting. So let me turn on I use a wad stopper. So it's just on an app on my watch, and I'll set it for 5 seconds. That means hit it. I got to draw back, anchor in, boom, shoot within 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Now I'm still going through the same shot sequence that I normally would as I'm building that slow develop. But if you don't practice that in the midst of a hurry where you got an elk coming in bugling and you get one little window to make that shot, you can really screw it up. So practice is practice, but you've got to practice every single scenario you think you're ever going to get into, because you're going to get into it. My bull that I shot right behind me with you, when you say you want to be with us, you remember you were on my right, Johnny was on my left.
We're sitting on a log.
Sitting on a log, and I had to come up over the top of Johnny with my bow because that bull came to our left and went behind us, and shoot from a seated position, quartering turn around. I mean, nobody practices that.
No.
But you have to.
Exactly, Jay. And then on the flip side, you need to be able to hold your bow for a long period of time. Because if he hangs up and he's not moving and you're surrounded by cows, you got to hold that bow and be ready to punch.
I'm glad you said that, because that's another time thing you can do, 30-second holds. 30-second hold is a long time when you're holding a bow. It's crazy how long that feels. You can build that stamina up to where you can do 1-minute holds. It's incredible, but you know it. You watch your hunters. they're holding for 15 seconds. Cause I've been there before. All of a sudden you start to see this.
Yep.
In their mind, what are they thinking? I got to let down. I got to let down. And you can't let down when there's an elk looking at you, or it's over.
Yeah. And then I tell the same thing for all the gun hunters too. You got to practice. Like you said, it's muscle memory. And the gun hunters, I tell them, you don't have to go out and shoot your magnums every day. Go out with the 22. You know, same thing with the boats. Just shoot 20 yards, shoot 10 yards, whatever you can shoot in your backyard. Just get that muscle repetitive memory. So when the time comes down, your body already knows what to do. And we're making the shot when we need to make the shot.
Well, the one thing you did teach me, and I now see it on every video, turkey peeking.
Oh, turkey. You were the worst turkey peeker I've had in a while.
And so as you would say that, in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm not even moving. Now I literally just got some new calls in, and I got a DVD with it. And I don't ever watch elk hunting because I know it's usually, it's not going to go down that way. But this is Steve Chappell or Chappell or whatever his name is.
Steve Chappell, yeah.
Chappell. He's got some good calls, and I wanted to try his calls. I needed some new ones, and I got it. And this comes with a DVD. And I'm watching these hunters. And Ricky, I had to laugh because I'm thinking that was me. I mean, it's just right here. They're looking, all of a sudden the bulls come in, they look back at the guide like this, like, so doing this kind of stuff, and they think they're moving slow. And me, I probably look like a break dancer sometimes, because you come up to me a couple times like, you got to stop turkey peeking. Like, you're seeing that movement.
Yeah. And I hope everybody knows what turkey peeking is. You see those turkeys look around over that log, or something. That's that little bit of movement those elk will pick up. You got to remember, elk stands 7-8 feet tall. And they're looking down because everything attacks them from the ground. So they're so used to picking up this little tiny movement, and that little turkey peek, they got you. And it's killed a lot of hunts very, very quickly.
I watched a YouTube, I won't say the name of it, but it's a good YouTube. The guys are good hunters. They kill a lot of elk up in the Pacific Northwest. And they drew an Arizona tag, and this guy had a giant bull come in. And it's exactly what he did. He blew it. I mean, the bull's coming in, the video camera's behind him. And of course, they got a video camera caller. They got a little bit more stuff out there, but the camera was back a little ways. And the bull was not scared by the camera. Actually, the caller and the camera guy were the same guy, but the hunter was up a little ways. And man, his head was moving back and forth like this. And he was trying to look at that bull around the tree. And I know as a hunter, because that's what I am, I still think I'm moving slow. But I've really learned the elk are looking through for that movement. I mean, if there's something calling, they're looking for that, like a flicker of an ear or whatever, instead of just my eyes moving. That head tends to want to look around the tree at them a little bit. And man, they pick it up. And this guy picked it up, and it was a 380 plus bull. And gone. And he's talking to the cameraman. I don't know what he ran away for. And I'm sitting in, like, I'm laying in bed watching it, yelling like, it's because you're turkey peeking. I mean, I'm.
And the same thing, JP, I get all the time with my hunters, because usually, like, I'll be right behind them. And usually I put my hand on their shoulder or grab a backpack so I can kind of control them without speaking. And if the bull's coming to my left or right, guys want to turn their head. I don't need to see the bull. I can hear him, or I can see it on my peripheral. And you got to learn how to usually what I'll do is pick a pine tree, pick a rock, and just stare at it until that animal gets into that field. That's why I know that's my killing field. But if you move, you're in their house, JP. They know where everything is, especially when you get into their bedding areas and stuff where they live every day. It's like me going in your house and moving your TV out of the way. You're going to be like, that wasn't there. And it puts them on alert. So it's the same mentality of you are in their house. So you have to do everything to prevent them finding you.
Yeah, you are right, man. You're exactly right. I bet we could end right there, and you've just given $1 million tips right there. I mean, I think.
Whoa, I got to slow it down then.
Well, yeah, we're going to go here for a while. We got some time. I want to talk about, before we get into tips and tactics on elk hunting, and we're right around the corner. I know you're itching to get out there and get behind some hunters. I'm itching to go, and I'm going to Wyoming, so that's going to be fun. But I want to talk about why guiding. Why somebody would use a guide. I've always wanted to just do a podcast just on this, but you're a guide, and I want to kind of share this on here, because I think you can back me up a little bit. So I know there's people that are hardcore do-it-yourself hunters, and I totally respect that. And then there's people that choose guided hunting only, and I totally respect that. I think as the outdoor industry, again, I say this on almost every podcast, if we don't pull together and support everybody. It doesn't matter if you go do it yourself, backpack, guided, drop camp, fully outfitted, whatever you decide to do. If we don't support everybody, we're going to lose the fight, because we don't need to fight internally. We got enough external forces trying to take hunting out. But guiding is a big one. So I had never gone on a guided hunt until 2002, I think 2003. I had a very bad experience on a guided hunt. I killed a cow elk, Colorado, bad experience. And then as I had this little business I did, and, you know, it afforded me a little bit more funds. And my first guided hunt, I went to Wyoming. And then the very next year I was with you guys, and I would catch a lot of, I had 3 great years in a row: Wyoming 2013, Arizona 2014, Nevada 2015. I did all guided hunts. And I had some people that really lashed out, and they were talking about, oh my goodness, well, anybody could kill that kind of bull if you're guided. And I'm like, yeah, well, I've been on both sides of it. And so I love when people do it yourself. But if you're a listener and you're applying for a state like Arizona, and you draw one of these coveted tags, you got to remember, you know, just like where I'm at right now, I got a Utah deer tag in less than a month, and I don't get to get up and scout it.
Yeah.
Now that's a do-it-ourself backpack hunt. We're doing the Wyoming do-it-ourself this year. But if, like, my Nevada hunt, my Arizona hunt, I'm not a seasoned elk hunter. So I don't want to throw away all those points and an opportunity to just come and hunt, not have to come back to camp exhausted because I've hunted all day, cook food, deal with this, deal with that, try to get up there and scout to give it the justice it needs. By the time that you're completely done with everything it takes to justify that hunt, you've spent as much, if not more money than you would on a guided hunt, where you can have somebody like you that's been doing this for 17, 18 years that can shorten that curve and say, hey, it's still hunting, and you got to make the shot, and you got to be a good hunter, and you got to do everything right because it's archery. But I'm going to up the odds a little bit of getting you in the wheelhouse to get it done.
Yeah, that's perfectly said, JP. And I've guided every walk of life, where some people need a guide because they just don't know what to do, and they're brand new into the thing, and they want to get into it. And that's actually a lot of fun, right? Because you're bringing somebody in the outdoors and you're showing them all these things. And then I've had the other side of the spectrum that they just need you because you know knowledge of the area. And I'm good with that too. But you said a guy from out of state, like you said, by the time you come figure Arizona out in a 14-day hunt, it's going to take you 3, 4, 5 days. Okay. And what are you really going to learn? You're going to learn a little section where these elk are. And you're just burning time. You're burning fuel. You're burning emotional, everything is just, if you come out in a guided hunt, day one, I got you, we're rolling. It moves that learning curve way over. And then the huge thing, and a lot of people don't realize, like you said, you could come back, a hot meal's waiting for you. Camp's taken care of. It's clean. You just get to show up and go hunting. Guys from out of state, like you said, they're going to spend just as much money getting out here, setting everything up as you would almost to pay a guide. And the other thing is, like, people, I hear it too. Well, you're a guide. No wonder you killed that. I'm still hunting public land, and they're wild animals. I'm not taking you on to the Tajon Ranch in California. We're still hunting the same areas. It's just I have 18 years, 17 years. And then another thing, like sometimes Dwayne will do with our big camps, is he'll bring apprentices in or other guides at times, and they will be on the payroll just to go scouting. So when I do hit a low area, I can come in, talk to one of those guys, and they'll be, all right, I got bulls bugling over here. I got bulls over here. So I'm right back in the game, So there is some huge business. I understand it's a large cost up front. But when you look at overall, it's really not that bad, especially Dwayne. Dwayne runs a 14-day hunt. A lot of outfitters in Arizona do a 7 and 7, where Dwayne does the full 14. So.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. And most guys can't even get away for full 14 days. So, yeah. I mean, if they're going to try to come and scout, the scouting time that they do, and then try to hunt as many days as they can, you're cutting into it, and again, and it's not the same in every state, but Arizona, when you get an opportunity at some of these tags here, man, you want just to up your odds. And I'll tell you this, because you go guided does not guarantee anything.
No.
It guarantees not one single thing. When I shot my bull in Nevada, I have heard every excuse under the sun. The number one question is, well, public land or private land, of course you're going to. I'm like, no, we were hunting a public mountain that was so stinking big, I didn't even want to look at that thing by the 7th day because it was just a giant. Mm-hmm. What people don't realize, I think, about the West, I grew up in the Midwest. And so it's land tracts, all public or all private land. So somebody owns this 40 acres and next to it is 100 acres, next to it is 300. You're lucky if you got more than 200 acres over there. A lot of these big farms have been split up. And so you get to hunt your little 40 acres. So ton of my Midwest friends will ask all the time, well, so whose land do you hunt out there? I'm like, ours, yours, national forest, BLM land, state land. It's all public. I've never hunted private land out West one single time. I've never hunted a chunk of private land anywhere out West since I've been hunting out here since 1993, all public land. And so these animals get pressured, they get pushed. What you guys have, I think, is such a knowledge of the territory that, you guys may call them push zones, whatever you all have your own language for it. But when the mass circus starts opening day and all the tags are released, those elk don't just sit in the same spot where they can be seen from the road. And so maybe I've come and again, I'm not trying to get somebody to do a guided hunt. I'm on both sides of it. I do a lot of do-it-yourself hunts. I just have always wanted to share this. I just feel it's necessary for some people to understand why some people do guided and why some people don't. The moment you may have some elk scouted, and then all of a sudden every four-wheeler in Arizona and every Polaris in Colorado has been released to the country roads, those elk go somewhere. They don't just stand along the road. They go somewhere. And so maybe all the elk that you've scouted preseason, you get there like, where did all the elk go? Oh, they went somewhere else. And guess who knows where they went? Ricky.
Exactly. I know where they went. Well, a majority of them went. Another thing, JP, is so you could go. My dog's. Oh, my wife just got home. I'm sorry.
Oh.
So the dog's going crazy.
What kind of dog you got?
Oh, I got 4 dogs. I got 2 Australian Shepherds and 2 Queensland Sealers.
Holy cow.
So like you bring up scouting, JP, like if you go scouting right now, we can go out and find tons of elk. By the time the hunt comes around, those elk aren't going to be there anymore. Because right before, about a week before the hunt, I call it the big shuffle. Bulls start coming in, start breaking herds up. Cows start going to certain areas. So it's going to be totally different. And it's frustrating for guys where right now bulls are laying out in the big opens. They're velvet. They're still kind of sensitive. So they'll lay out on the open under the big trees. Easy to find. Cows will be in big herds of 50, 60. Well, come September 14th, 15th, when we start hunting, now cows are 8, 9, 10. Bulls are moving things around. So it's a totally different game. And that's where sometimes a guide is well worth his weight in gold.
So, okay, let's get into some tactics and that kind of stuff. Scouting. Let's start there real quick. So, season's September 15th for most places. Mm-hmm. Some places are a little bit early. Some other states are September 1st, those kind of things. What are you telling a hunter to look for? If that big shuffle is going to happen, what am I looking for to get out there?
So I usually don't start scouting until the rains come in Arizona. It's so hot, but when they come, so it's kind of relieved. Plus, the elk will move earlier after it rains in the afternoon. Just because it cools down, there's water, so they'll get up and feed a little bit more. So your glassing time is a lot longer. I'm looking for concentrations of cows and water sources right now. A lot of times right now, this time of year, July into August, I just drive roads. Get the lay of the land. Figure out where your canyons are. Figure out where all your water sources are. Just look for places that this should hold elk. Nice thing about elk, they leave big rubs that you can find year after year. So look at some of the older rutting zones, and that's what I do. Boots on the ground. A lot of guys, I'm not going to bash on the Google Earth and stuff because I've used it. But with elk hunting, I feel like just getting out there and driving around gives you a lot more perspective of what's going on than just reviewing a map. You got to get out there. You got to see what tanks are still dry. One big monsoon will blow a berm tank dam out. Now it's empty and it's useless. Well, if you've been looking at Google Map, oh, this looks like a great one. Well, it blows out next week. Now it's a worthless tank. So get out there, look around, find old rubs, and then slowly, as the hunt gets closer and closer, now you're going to start checking tanks, find where your most water activity, usually in Arizona. And these are certain units I would do this in. So take your 6s, 4s, 5s, which are more water dependent. Your same with your 8, 9, 10. Tanks tell you everything you need to know about elk because they have to drink out there. It gets dry real quick, and they'll hit water. So it'll tell you where's your most concentration of elk. Your bulls will start wallowing probably first week, second week in September when their testosterone starts getting big. That'll tell you a lot. Bulls are starting to wallow and kind of get you going on what's going out. Now, Unit 127, 3A, 3C is kind of a different beast because there's so much water. So like one, I don't know if you remember, every time you hit a bottom, you were, knee deep in a bog. So they're not water dependent. But the flip side is they have to come out to meadows to feed. So in the early morning, late afternoon, they have to come out of the tree line to eat. So they're easier to spot at times. But yeah, that's kind of what I would be doing out. I can't stress enough, especially with a 14-day hunt, know your area. Know as much of the area as you can, because you're going to be in a hot spot day 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it's going to dry up, or other hunters will come in and bump them. And now you're back to ground zero. So know another spot. And I'm not talking like, it's another hot spot, but just know, hey, this spot looked pretty good. I'm going to go check it out this morning. And just that's the key.
Okay, so let me throw a wrench in this now. Let's say I'm hunting. Let's say I'm a do-it-yourself, and I'm not in Arizona, and like I'm Wyoming, right? And 17-hour drive, and I'm not going to be able to get there. So, from a Googler standpoint, what are some things that I should look for?
Yeah. So you want to make sure they have good bedding areas. Okay. Elk love nice, cool cover. A lot of times they like to bed on canyon lips. In the pines, and there's a couple of reasons that I figure out. I am no biologist by whatsoever. I just kind of figured this out throughout the years. They like a nice, strong, steady wind, a wind-driven canyon wind. The reason being is that's their protection. They smell what's coming up. And of course, they like cool pines because, especially in September, October, you're starting to get the seasonal change, right? So you're getting cold nights, but it's still warm days. So they're going to put the fat on to keep themselves warm at night, but they can't cool off during the day. So they'll shade up big time. And like I said, elk need water. They got to have water. It's not like Coues deer where they get a lot of their water from food. Elk, they have to drink. Every 2-3 days, they got to go hit water. So that's what I would really stress on. Your water's closest to your canyons or their bedding areas. Food-wise, elk can kind of eat everything. They're kind of like cattle. They'll. I mean, I've actually killed elk in 22 down in prickly pears. They're not good-looking elk. They're pretty mangy-looking, but they're down there, and they'll just eat whatever.
So if I summarize that, find water, and then go out from there. Find water, find the bedding close to the water. Mm-hmm. All the canyons and all that protection by water. What if I'm hunting a unit that has a lot of water? Then just focus on the on some of those areas of bedding and corridor type stuff.
Correct. Yeah, that's exactly what I would do. I would really stress on the bedding areas. Food. I mean, they're just like elk are like an animal. They're going to go to the easiest food source. So your large meadows, big open areas, burns. Elk love burns. That's where you get a lot of that nice green shoots and lots of green grass for them to eat. So I'd look for burns, bedding areas, stuff like that. Now, elk aren't afraid to travel though. So an elk will do 2-3 miles to go from food to bed without in minutes. So don't think they have to be real close to each other. Just look for that general area.
I'm writing this down because I want to address it right now. And I'm going to skip ahead a little bit and say this point. You say that elk will go from they'll travel 2 to 3 miles without a problem. Probably one of the hardest things I've encountered when elk hunting is getting out late and getting behind a herd. And
might as well go back to the truck.
There's no way in the world
Nope.
you can get ahead of them. I mean, they can move so fast. So in that situation, what do you do if you get behind a herd? Are you ghosting it? What would you do in that situation?
Well, it depends. Do you know where they're going? Is the key. If I know, and I was kind of serious about get back to the truck. If I know where they're going and it's 3 miles, my Toyota can beat those elk there. And I know people are like, that's crazy. But if you know they're going to the bedding area, I mean, in all honesty, if they're ahead of me, I go find other elk. JP, there's no way I can catch them. And by the time I finally do catch them, I'm so far behind them. They're already on alert. They're already in their bedding area. It's over, and you can try to hook around them, try to figure it out, but they're going to beat you. Especially when that cow decides that she wants to go to bed, the lead cow, it's over. So go find other elk. Go hunt other elk. Now, another thing you can do, I'm going to give some secrets away, is you can follow them, okay? And I'm not saying to hunt them that day. Figure out where they're going, know where they're going to go the next day, and be there the next day. As long as nobody boogers them or screws them up, they'll keep kind of generally repeating that pattern.
Well, I know you're speaking from experience because it was what we did, and I know you did every single year. I remember we started we started one spot, and then we got on some elk, and then we left those elk. We went to a different spot, I think the next day or a couple of days later, and we came in from one way, and you had said to me, hey, they're different than what they were doing. We're behind them here. Tomorrow we're coming in the other way. And we came in, so we were ahead of them. And next thing you know, I mean, we're smack dab in the middle of just like all these elk funneling through one point. So you're speaking exactly how you hunt. And I witnessed it. We couldn't keep up with them, and there's no way you can keep up with an elk. I mean, their natural walk is a fast jog. It's just amazing. Whether it's uphill, downhill, side hill, it doesn't matter. They can just flat out move.
Yeah. And you're not going to beat them. And the best thing to do, especially with elk, and I'm talking you're on a big bull, JP, and this is where a lot of guys will make mistakes when they get on big bulls, is they push them too hard. You gotta play to the elk's game, okay? And it may take you 3-4 days to get that game down, but you gotta play. It's a chess game at that point. A lot of guys, I may break off a little bit here on this, but a lot of guys ask me, how do you kill herd bulls? And the key is you kill herd bulls when you can kill them. And saying that, it means when they're cowed up and they have 40 cows, you cannot kill them. In my opinion, guys will argue and they'll say you can kill them. You can't kill them. And that's the way I go into the game. I can't kill this bull. So I'm going to learn this bull as much as I can to figure out where he's going. Where you kill him is going into bed. So you catch him going in or out. You kill him on water, or you kill him when another big bull comes in. Okay? Because you need a distractor, right? In this bedding zone, what happens is cows will start breaking out to bed down. He starts getting a little nervous, and he'll start moving back and forth to check his cows. That now gives you an opportunity to get a shot in. Water, of course, is water. They need to drink. And then when another big bull comes in on them, of course, you have a giant distractor, and you can usually try to get them killed then.
Well, I told that story about you telling me to run at the very beginning. So I want to bring this up because I think this is a big tip. I didn't know this. So the scenario we had at that point was we had a big herd bull, and there was multiple satellite bulls. And what that herd bull was doing is he was pushing his cows, and he had 20, 25 cows. And we were probably, I would say, 150 yards back from him. I would say the place where we were, and then you would remember, but I don't want to give anything away of your areas. And all of a sudden, one of the satellite bulls came in from the right and tried to circle around that herd bull, and he chased him way to the right. Now the cows were over to the left, and that's when you were behind me and you're like, run. And of course I'm trying to tiptoe thinking I'm going to scare the cows and everything. Well, as finally, when you started to push me, that bull was already on his way back. I had waited too long. And what you'd said to me was, that was the opportunity. You had an interrupter right there. The opportunity was that bull chased that satellite bull off to the right. We didn't necessarily care about the cows. My fear was I'm going to spook those cows, but the bull was out of sight. You wanted me to absolutely just get in between those cows and that herd bull. So when he came back, and sure enough, what did he do? He came back, but I was not in position I didn't get into where you wanted me to get into fast enough.
Yeah. Even if you scare those cows, that actually plays into your hand. Because that bull gets even more excited because his cows are now running. He does not realize what scared those cows. He doesn't know if it was us or it was another bull's trying to steal him. So he's going to come back there even more aggressively. That's why I'm like, move, move, move. You got to run. And in that situation too, I don't know if you remember, those cows were all on alert to our left. That's why we were tiptoeing. That bull took to the right. We were in the dead zone. Like we had nothing to go. Even if he came back, they were going to leave. So that's one of those situations like, let's put all our cards down and let's full court press them, right? They were out in the open. We were kind of in the open. I had my distractor all of a sudden. We forced forward. 9 times out of 10, he's going to run right past us.
He did. I just wasn't where you wanted me to be. That was a frustrating moment for you. I know it was because it was early in our relation. It was early in our relationship, Ricky.
Yeah, it was.
and I mean, I remember you're like, run. And I'm like, I'm thinking I'm like 440 here. You know, I'm moving and I'm tiptoeing. I don't want to break a branch. And then I remember your big old strong hands. I think you had me by the pack. And I don't think my feet were touching. You're just like, I'm trying to get you in there. When I tell you to run, you had a smile. Like, when I tell you to run, just go ahead and run. Get up in there, JP. And we would have smacked that bull too. Cause it was, then I realized what you were trying to tell me to do, but it was, here's a tip for a hunter that comes on a guided hunt. Cause I've been on many of them. Absolutely 100% trust your guide and do what they say. I mean, when you're in a great outfitting camp, like you're getting Dwayne Adams with their guides and Ricky and all those guys, just do what they say. Cause they're killers for a reason. And they're not going to tell you to do something that's going to hamper your hunt. And I have been guilty of that before. So,
and there's times where we do stuff that doesn't work out, and I'll be the first one to admit of, oh, that didn't work out. So it's still hunt. Like I can't stress enough, we're still hunting public land, and that brings into another thing. I get so many hunters that get so upset, like when other hunters screw up our hunt. It's going to happen. It's public land. You know, it took me years to get over that as a guide, and now I'm just like, you know, they didn't have a chance anyways. Now, on the flip side, I've had a lot of other hunters that have very much helped me by splitting bulls up, splitting cows up, and they don't understand what's going on. And I slide in there, and I'll never forget. I had a hunter.
Pinch a bull. That's what we say. Slide in and pinch a bull.
Oh, yeah. I had a hunter, and a guy was set up. He was cow calling, and his bull was on his bed. He was bugling back. I could tell by the way he was bugling, he was on his bed. And the guy just kept cow calling. That bull just kept talking back. So we just slid right up there, took a look. Nope, not big enough. Slid back out. Guy never knew we were there. So it's just little things like that.
Okay, so let's get into this. And I'm not going to calling. I want to talk a little bit about calling, but here's what I want to tell the listeners. There's enough calling videos out there that you just find all the calling videos. But I think each state is a little bit different. To bugle, here's the question that I got. To bugle or not to bugle? To cow call or not to cow call? How much and how often?
It's $1 million question,
isn't it? Yeah.
And it depends, JP. It depends on where we are in the rut. And that's where experience really pays off. I could tell what the bull's doing by the way he bugles. Okay. And I know I can kind of tell where he's in the rut by the way they're bugling. Cows talk year round. Cows do their little chirping. I mean, you can go out right now and hear cows mew. I'll be the first one to admit I'm not a very good cow caller. So I do very, very minimal to do. I bugle a lot, and I bugle to locate only. But there's some little tricks when you bugle. Some guys want to sound like the biggest bull out there. I want to sound like a 3-4-year-old bull, a bull big enough just to drive a big bull crazy. So it's a very short, sweet bugle, and I'll get a lot of response to that. And basically, especially during the midday, they're just telling you like, "Hey, I'm over here. Don't come over here." Well, that's all I need to hear. So then I can take it from there.
So let me stop you right there, Ricky, because I think you said something. That bull is saying, "Hey, I'm over here. Don't come over here." So like you said, you're bugling to locate. So if you bugle and locate, and then you move in 200 yards and bugle again, and then you move in and bugle again, you're basically just telling the bull, I'm coming after you. Go ahead and get out of here. Or maybe his cows are just saying, I want him gone anyway.
Yeah, or I'm just walking through the forest. I'm just a little bull walking through the forest, and I'm going to aggravate him enough. This is more, I guess, in the morning it works real well too. The key is, JP, is you want to start when you're bugling. Is I start from far away. When I get out of the truck or my side by side or whatever we're in, take 10 minutes and listen. Don't get on your horn yet. Just listen, okay? Because he may be right there. And then slowly work in. Picture this. If I come out to your house and I'm in your front yard and I yell, "Hey, JP, you in there?" You're going to respond, "Yeah, Rick, I'm in the house." And then as I come closer, "Yeah, keep coming, keep coming." Where if I sneak into your house and get right behind you and scream, "Hey, JP," it's going to scare you, right? And it's the same thing with elk. Like I said, you're in their home. They know what's going on. So I start from far away, and that's why I say get out of the truck and listen. Listen for 10 minutes. Okay? If you don't hear anything, bugle. A lot of guys just get out, bugle. Well, if that bull is right there, he's not going to say a thing, load up his cows, and leave. You'll never know he was there. But if you wait and all of a sudden he rips off, he may be 100 yards away, 200 yards away. And then I slowly work into him. Just bugling when I need to locate. As you get closer, I don't call a lot most of the time. There is a time when the rut gets really hot and heavy and those cows start getting scattered. I'll mew, the bulls will come in to check. A lot of times when you cow call and it's too early in the rut, you're just setting off an alarm. Okay? We use calls to locate elk. Well, they call, we call to them, we locate them. Well, they now located us. They know exactly where we are. Okay? Because we just made a sound. So early in that rut, I kind of just stay quiet, maybe a few mews here and there just to keep them chattering, and then slowly slide in and see what they're doing and try to get your shot in.
I think the best elk hunters that I know call very little.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. There's a time and a place for it, but yeah, I'll be the first to admit I'm not that good at it. So my strength is to bugle and to just let them do what they're going to do and try to work in and get your shot.
Yeah. And again, I'm just speaking from hunting with you. I know we'd bugle, you'd bugle, and then we'd locate him and we would move fast.
Yeah.
We would move fast till we get eyes on him. Different than what I really expected. Cause again, I had a big fear of bumping elk all the time. So I always wanted to move so slow. And I mean, you're an aggressive hunter, a very good aggressive hunter, meaning when they bugle, you had an idea of how far away they were. So it was move fast to get there and close the distance. Cause it was this. I mean, we'd always say, let's go get eyes on the bull, see if it's a bull we want to kill. You'd move in. I remember the one time we covered some ground fast. We got on the flat and where we'd started, actually I killed my bull down below this, but we're up flat where all those bulls were. And we got in there and we went after a bugling bull like day 8 or whatever it was. And we got in on them. I mean, we moved fast and hard into that herd, got eyes on them, like, not a bull we want to kill. Let's go. Let's get out of here. We didn't waste a whole lot of time. It was, let's go to the next herd. Let's go to the next bugle and go find out what we want to kill.
And that's very important, JP, is especially, and this is only during the rut. Now, if we were late season hunting or hunting deer, I'm very slow and methodical. It drive you crazy. But they're telling you where they are. They're yelling, "I'm over here. Just go look at them." That's another thing that frustrates guys too, is in your slow mornings, I'm rolling spots as fast as I can, because if they're not talking, I'm not hunting them, right? And I'm a firm believer, and I've had a lot of discussion with clients over this, is you got to let the elk rest. If they don't want to talk, they don't want to get hunted, leave them alone. Same thing like midday. You got to let them bed. If some guys a lot of guys just want to walk through the woods and I don't know what they're looking for, but you're going to bump elk. Don't bump elk. Let them rest. Let them reset. You give them 2-3 days off, you may come back and they may be just going crazy, right? Because they got the rest, they got the food, they got the water. That cow went into estrus now, and now you got them. And I'm a firm believer of letting them rest. And going back to that place when we were up there on the flats, the reason why we pushed so hard too, it goes back to scouting, JP. I knew where they were going. I knew what was on the end of that point. I knew what the next canyon is. And that's why I say, get out there. You got to be out there now, looking around. Take the family up, driving the 4x4, do whatever. Just get out there And you never know when those little things of like, I remember this little canyon. I remember that there's a point that's all haired over. I bet they're going there. That will pay off. And when it does, it's deadly.
So next question, you just answered one. I was going to ask, I had a question that come through. Should I be hunting during the midday? But like you said, you got to let them rest. But what do I do when elk aren't bugling and you're not in a glassable area? What do you do when you're struggling to find elk? So
keep moving, JP, keep moving. Arizona units are hundreds of square miles. Keep moving. There was one morning I couldn't find a bugling elk. I put 73 miles on my truck. Okay. You just got to keep moving, because if you can't glass them, what are you going to do? Are you just going to walk aimlessly through the woods? Yeah, you may bump into elk, and some guys will say that's what I'll do, and good for them. But me, I'm going to keep moving until I find bugling elk. And the great thing about public land in Arizona is you do have hundreds of square miles to go find elk. So, and then there's some days it's just going to be a bad rut. And that's the great thing about a 14-day hunt. Take the morning off, relax, go get yourself some Circle K coffee, maybe a nice breakfast, recharge the batteries, because that afternoon, they won't stay quiet forever. But I'm a firm believer of letting the elk rest, especially if you're in a big bull. If you're in some big quality animals, you got to let them rest. If those cows leave or you put too much pressure, you will never ever see him again. There's a reason why he's that big. Bigger a bull like that, 7, 8, 9 years old, he's been hunted 30, 35 times. Between all the archery hunts, all the gun hunts, he knows what's going on. He knows holes to go into that you'll never find. And the other thing they know is how to shut up. A big bull like that will stop bugling, and he'll just grunt or he'll make a little whistle, and that's it. My brother and I were on a big bull on the side of this canyon. He never bugled. He would just kind of grunt 3 times every morning. And we almost killed him twice. And then we finally brought the gun hunter in, and he missed him. But yeah, it was quite. He had only 4 cows, and he would never bugle, never a full bugle, just a kind of a little grunt. So they're smart. They're very, very smart.
Well, you gave a tip there. I want listeners to, and I want to talk to people that hunt other states other than Arizona as well. So you put 73 miles on your truck. You were able to do that because you have multiple spots. And I know Wayne has said that when he's always said, you got to have 8 to 10 spots. You got to know where to go when it's not happening where you're at. So let's say I'm hunting Colorado, same thing, or I'm hunting Wyoming. I've got to have some spots, because if I can't drive the roads, if I'm doing more of a backpack type hunt, maybe it's not a backpack hunt, but I've hiked in a couple miles and there's just no elk there, I got to be willing to move, and I got to know where I'm going to try to find other elk. I got to have other areas scouted, so I'm not just wasting. If I travel out here, and let's say I'm not on a Dwayne Adams hunt, so I only got 7 days, 6, 7 days, like a lot of guys do. Most guys, going out west, only get to hunt 5, 6, 7 days. When you draw an Arizona tag, make sure you hire Dwayne Adams and you hunt all 14, because it's a once in a life. It's not a once in a lifetime, but it's a hunt of a lifetime. But I'm going to Colorado. I get 6, 7 days off because that's all I can get off for work. I don't want to waste every cent. I've been so guilty of this, wasting 3, 4 days in the same exact area, waiting for elk to show up.
Correct.
Yeah. And next thing you know, I'm like, we got 2 days left to go, and I'm bored. I'm burnt out. Like mentally, I'm done.
Yep. And you burn time. Like you said, 3, 4, 5 days. That's golden. You got to make things happen. Now that doesn't mean I don't go back to those areas ever because they were quiet or I didn't find any elk. I may actually rotate back through before the morning hunt's over, because a lot of my spots, they don't get there until a few hours. Like they're traveling from other areas, or they may be lazy that morning, or a coyote may have went through the middle of them when I was there, so they weren't ripping off. So you gotta make the hunt happen. I just am not a believer of just walking through the woods unless you can glass. Now, if you can glass in a high spot, then you let your eyes do the walking. But as soon as you get down on the ground in the elk areas, they got you beat. The game's over. They're already equipped. If they're not talking, they're already equipped to beat you with their sight, their nose, everything else. And there's 40 cows. That's 80 eyes looking for you. So.
And if a coyote comes through, you've always got to have a plan B and be ready to start whacking coyotes in the middle of the milk season, right, Rick?
Yeah, that was a slow day. See, we filled our slow day.
We did. I think it was the middle of the day. I remember we had a little coyote out in this prairie, so we had a little stalk on it. We got rid of one predator, and also we screwed around long enough. And you'd said that you're like, all right, we screwed around long enough. Let's get back to elk hunting.
Yeah, let's get back to elk hunting.
But we killed one predator other. But you just answered a question when you said that. One of the questions I had gotten was, will elk leave an area and then return? How long should I hang around an area and wait?
Well, yeah, absolutely. JP, where we killed your bull isn't good till about the second week of the hunt. And I know that over experience, just the way they stack up, the way the cows get broken up. I have another couple spots. It's where we shot at that other real big one. If you remember on your hunt, we go up the little hill called the kill zone.
Yep.
That doesn't get good.
I remember every day. It literally was a hunt of a lifetime.
That doesn't get good till about the last 6 days. And the way the elk stack, the way as more and more bulls come out of those big canyons to break cows up, they're starting to find new areas. You get new bulls coming in off, especially in Unit 1, 3A, 3C, 27, 23. Those bulls start coming off the reservation. Okay, because what happens is there's so many large 400+ inch bulls that are rutting cows in the reservation. These 350, 360, 370s are satellite bulls over there. Well, they're breeding bulls on our side. So they just cross the fence and there's more cows on our side. So yeah, it just constantly loads itself, and you need to be prepared for that. And don't write off. If you go in there pre-scouting and there's old rubs, you're seeing water tanks are getting hit, driving out in the middle of the night, coming back to camp, and you're seeing elk cross the road, they're there. Just don't write them off. Just keep looping around, and eventually it'll pop off. As soon as one of those cows go into heat, it's on. And every bull in the area will be in there with her.
And that's what you're holding out for. Just like the whitetail back in Wisconsin, November, you're hunting your property, your little 40 acres, or I had 100 acres. All I cared about was, I'm hunting every single day because I know one doe comes into heat, and man, the circus and the rodeo is on. Same thing when one cow comes into heat, the rodeo's on.
Yeah. Now, and this is going to kind of shock you. I actually don't like Unit 1 when it gets real slow, when the rut's not on yet. I hate that unit. And I don't hate it, but there are so many cows and so much area that I have to keep checking to work it out. Where if I go to the 4s, the 5s, the 6s, where they get really, really water dependent, at 10 o'clock in the morning, I'm sitting in a tank and I'll kill a bull. Because they have to come drink. It doesn't matter what the rut's doing. They're going to hit water. And that's when water becomes, it's like a gold mine, as Dwayne would say, in those arid units, those cedar units. I actually feel more confident on a slow rut in those units because you have the equalizer. They have to hit water.
Got another question here, Rick. Calling setups. How far behind the hunter should you be as a caller? How far forward should you send the hunter?
It depends on my hunter. If my hunter, like JPU, I'd send 50, 60 yards because I'll let you pick out the spot in your shooting lanes. If it's a least experienced hunter, I may stay 20, 30 yards. Here's a little tip. Blow your cow call into your bugle tube, and you can make the sound go where you want it to, right? So you can actually blow it behind you, and it sounds like it's actually farther away than what it really is. So then I can stay close to my hunter when I set up for that calling situation. The biggest thing is make sure you have shooting lanes, okay? And if they come in and they're not in your shooting lane, don't move, let them pass. We'll swoop around and we'll do it again. So a lot of guys will try to make the shot happen by moving, and then it's over. Where if you let the bull walk through, or the cows or whatever, as long as we don't spook them, we just keep hooking them until we finally get that right shot.
That's a big point right there. Talk about hooking them. Talk about that. So I'm going to set up and I don't get the shot at the bull. Mm-hmm. Is it over?
No, not at all. I've actually had guys where we've shot a quiver of arrows at bulls to the point to the point where I'm digging broadheads out of the tree to reload the bow for the next hook to shoot at again. It's not over, especially when the rut's hot and heavy. The key is, I mean, obviously, if you miss them high and clean like he did, that they're not gonna notice. They're so busy trying to tend their cows. It was a situation where we had 3 bulls in on us, and he was actually raking a tree. We shot high and right, hit the tree. He looked up at the arrow and literally just walked back to his cows. I let him go down the hill a little bit. We dug that arrow out. We hooked him again. We shot and missed at him again.
So when you say hook him, you're just dipping around and getting back in front of
him. Yeah, just break off of them, kind of parallel them, find your cover, find your shade, work with them. And these are in areas where they're starting to slow down. Like I said, like when they're getting into bedding areas, the cows are going to spread out to feed again. They feed all night in the big meadows, and then they start to work back, and they'll start, they don't go right to bed. They kind of mingle, and some will lay down, some will stand up. Well, the bull doesn't like that because he can't keep track of all of them, especially when there's other bulls in there. So he's going to just do big circles around them, go through them, and you just set yourself up on that perimeter where he's going to come back and hook around and hopefully get another shot at him.
Do you remember when we were hunting, we were up on that flat where it was the morning that a little later you sent me over that point to look at that one bedded bull. I think it was the same morning, but there was a bull that was bedded. And now I know what you're talking about, hooking them. And I was really surprised that we didn't do it, but there was a big bull. He was a short main beam bull, but he was like baseball bat thick everywhere. And he was an 8x8.
Mm-hmm.
And we snuck up on him, and I'm like, no, I don't want that bull. And I remember
that's when I almost threw a rock at you.
Yes, he gets up and he leaves, and you're like, are you sure you don't want that bull? And I'm like, no, I don't think, to be honest with you, I don't think I got as good of a look at him as I should have, because you were excited about that bull. And you kept saying, well, we'll go get him. And I remember him walking away, and I'm like, in my mind, now that you say this, hook the bull, I'm thinking to myself, well, how are we going to get him? I mean, his cow's in the left. And you said it multiple times, like, are you sure? Because we'll just go get him.
Yeah.
We'll just go get him. And I decided not to, but.
And it's not as easy as just walking down there. It may take you an hour to rehook them, 2 hours, going slow, not moving. But yeah, you can. As soon as they get in that zone where they calm down, we got them. And the reason I like that 8x8, I like that weird stuff. I mean, the one bull I got behind my back, he wasn't the biggest bull in the unit. I passed him for 3 days, and then finally I was like, I got to kill him. He got split force, long whales, and I like him. I like what people like. I don't care about scores.
Yeah, no, people are, I mean, again, we're talking Arizona here. So when you said there's so many 400-inch bulls on the reservation, most people are not going to understand that. They're thinking, oh, that's a bunch of BS talk. No, that's Arizona. That's these Indian reservations. And then these 350, 360 bulls come off. And I mean, again, I was on 13 bulls within 50 yards. That's the ones we moved into 50 yards. That's not including the ones that we just moved in on, like, no, that's not the bull we want. Let's go. We never one time even seen a raghorn. In my 10 days of hunting, I never saw one raghorn.
Mm-hmm. That's unit 1. I mean, truly is 1, 27, 3A, 3C. Those are truly unbelievable hunting areas. Now, if you go to some of the other units,
there's no tags anybody, so don't apply there.
Yeah, you go to some other areas, you're gonna have unbelievable hunting too, fun, but you'll start getting in those little rags, the 4s, the 5s, because you got to think what it takes for a bull to get to 3. Let's go 370. You got to have the right genetics. You got to have the right winter. You got to have the right water. You got to have the proper food. I mean, it's unbelievable to get a bull that size, and he's got to survive long enough to get that size. To 400 inches, you're talking 1 in 1,000, 1 in maybe 10,000 chance of getting to that size. And that's what sometimes upsets me about the elk industry, is that we've the numbers have kept pushing up to the point where, the animals can only do so much. And that 400 inches is an unbelievable bull, but you got to remember what it takes to get him to that size. Because I have a good buddy that guides on a private ranch, and he literally, we had a bad winter year, I think 2 years ago, JP, and his 380, 390 bulls, and this is a private ranch, so he knows the bulls, they all have names and everything, were 340, 350s. So he lost 40 inches just because of bad rain, no winter. It's unbelievable when you see a 400-inch bull.
Oh yeah, I was going to say that it's such a crazy difference when you see a bull that's at that. Now let's talk about Arizona again, because I've hunted many other states, and if you see a 320-inch bull, you got to do everything in your power to kill that bull, because that may be, and you got to understand that. And we were talking a lot about Arizona here, but every tip tactic that Rick has given, you can use in every state anywhere. But you've got to understand expectations of states in units. It's even different for Arizona. Some units every unit in Arizona has a potential to grow a giant.
Correct.
Where we're going in Arizona, Wyoming in September, I talked to a couple guys that hunted there, and they said, if you see a 280-inch bull, that's probably a bull, 300 is a big bull in that unit. So a 280 bull is a great bull. So you got to understand that and set your expectations right. You got to know the units you're hunting. You got to know the expectations of the bulls, the growth of the bulls, because a 300-inch bull could be one of the biggest bulls walking that unit. And you don't want to mess that up thinking you heard a podcast and, man, 360, 370 bulls walk around Arizona. Well, but there is a difference when you are hunting Arizona and you go from a 325, 330 bull, and then all of a sudden you see that 350, 360 bull. At that 350 mark, it's just something different to your eyes. It's just a really big animal. I mean, in Arizona, we're spoiled where, people say, well, you may pass a 350 bull. That is just a ginormous animal.
Not with me or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not me neither.
Yeah. And JP, I want to stress this too, just in Arizona, there's units where 310, 320, you shoot that bull, 4A, 5A, 4B, or I'm sorry, like those rim units right up as you come out of Payson. Now, guys are going to argue there's big bulls. There are some big bulls in there, but a majority of them are that 300 to 320 bull. So have a quality hunt, shoot what you want, but don't look for this magical number and ruin your hunt, because all of a sudden now you're out of days, And a 300-inch bull is a big, big bull. It's a beautiful bull. They're beautiful bulls.
Yeah. You just said something there that I want every elk hunter, beginning elk hunter, to understand. So we were hunting in an area, and if you remember, you'll remember this, the beautiful area. It's a long walk through a big open area first. Then we got down there and there was a 7x6. And he came and he caught us early. We were going down to that one meadow, and he caught us early in those pines. And it was me, you, your brother, and Nick. And we're knelt down, and he comes in 40 yards. And I remember whispering over my shoulder to you, I'm like, he's 350. And you're like, 325.
Yeah.
And I'm looking, I'm going, I think he's 350. And you kept going, JP's 325. And you said this, you go, but shoot him if you like him. And I let him go. And because I had a number wrapped up in my mind, again, I'm a newer elk hunter, had a number wrapped up in my mind. And then when it was all said and done, you told me later, you're like, don't ever let a score get in the way of, he was such a unique, neat looking bull. And it was my decision to let him go. And we went back, I think the next day looking for him, and we just couldn't find him again. He'd moved on to a different area. And I'm like, he was such a neat bull, 7 on one side, 6 on the other, real milk chocolate brown. Just like his antlers glowed. I'm like, what was I doing? Like, I should have killed that bull. Most people like, that'd be hard as a guide to be like, oh, it's that close, man.
Oh, it is. I want to hit on something, but first, JP, just think about what you said. You let a 7x6 go, an 8x8 go. Come on, what are we doing out there?
So I tell everybody, I had the hunt, and I killed a 400-inch bull, Rick. I know this is.
I know, yeah.
And that was an amazing hunt, but I've never had the caliber of hunt. That hunt, when I did that in Nevada, I never touched my bow for the first 4 days. Never even touched it. It was just all glassing. This bull, day one, hunt day one, I'm on bulls right away and nonstop until I shot my bull.
Yeah. To go back on what we were talking about, the numbers and stuff, JP, don't get numbers. I get a lot of guys from back east say, I want a 360, 370 type bull. First 280 bull comes in there drawn back, and I'm like knocking the arrow out of the rest. Like, that's not even close. And they're like, that's the biggest thing I've ever seen. It's just a number. And that kind of leads into talking guys at the gas station on your hunt, around the camp. How many guys have seen 400-inch bulls? And I'm going to tell you right now, I can probably count how many that I say these are absolute 400-inch bulls, probably on one hand. True 400-inch bulls. But everybody seemed to see them. You don't get that number stuck in your head. You never know what people are talking about. Shoot something that you love. Now, if you truly want that caliber of animal, and I will tell you this, when I had the tag 2 years ago, I had a bull I should have killed. And he walked right past me, and I was doing the score in my head. Till all of a sudden I realized, well, he's out of range now, and he's gone. I never found him again. And I'm just as guilty with it. And the other thing too on this, archery hunting is hard to score because they're in and they're out. They're moving cows. You just see glimpses of them. It's close. You can't move. It's not like on the late season where we can put the big eyes up and we can start scratching in the dirt. That's 17. This may be 18. Do all the rough math where they're just laying under a tree. It's a best guess at sometimes. So enjoy the hunt. I've had too many guys stress, and now all of a sudden we're day 6, and they finally start to relax, and they've missed some great hunting because they're worried about this or worried about that. Letting 8x8s go, letting 7x6s go.
I just knew I'd be back one day, Rick. I'll be back one day. That 8x8, he's still out there. Two more questions I got for you.
Sure.
So I know that when you're hunting, moon is important. The days, being dark nights or light nights, and you got the fall equinox in there. And I know the season's the season, so it doesn't matter. You're going to hunt that season because there's only that many given days. But can you really tell that big of a difference when you got a new moon, full moon, fall equinox? Like this year, we're going to have a dark moon and the fall equinox hit at the same time, September 15th through the 23rd or something like that. I mean, it's playing out to be pretty good.
It should be. But honestly, out of all my years, I've had some unbelievable ruts on the moon. When the moon is bright, it's like a flashlight. And then I've had, vice versa. The thing is, when the moon is bright, the elk will rut at night. So they will get a little more tired. They will go down earlier most of the time. But if the rut's on, the rut's on. They're going to bugle all night. And if you draw a tag in some of those I can't stress enough, in those arid units, on those full moonlit nights, they're going to rut all night long and go crazy. What's the first thing they're going to want to go hit when it slows down? They're going to go to water. So you need to be on the water. So you may have a terrible morning, but be in those huntable areas when it's time to hunt. Now, usually if the moon's bright and they rut all night, they get up earlier in the afternoon because they'll go to bed earlier. Like they'll take their naps earlier. So they'll get up earlier in the afternoon. So you usually have a better afternoon hunt at times. And then especially if it's an early mooning rise, because then they'll rut right into dark. So the thing I can't stress enough, and it took me a long time as a guide to get over this, you can't change it. The moon's the moon. You can't change the wind. You can't change the rain. You can't. Just go out there and do what you can, and do the best you can. And if that spot's not good, move spots. Find more elk.
I was going to say, I mean, the season dates are set. The moon is set. I ain't God. You ain't God. We can't change that. So it comes down to that 5-letter word, grind.
Grind.
And grind. And it comes around once a year. And this will parlay into my last questions I have for you. You got to grind. So how important is fitness? This is the Fit Archer podcast. I'm a fitness guru. I'm not a fitness guru. I like fitness. I like really pushing myself hard because I want to take away every excuse that I possibly can. I don't want to have to look at something and not be able to keep up with you and not be able to not want to go over that hill because I'm just too exhausted. And if I got to grind because I only have 7 days and in my 7 days I have, it's a full moon. What am I going to do? Am I going to let this year go by and be like, well, I'm not going to elk hunt this year? No, I got to grind it out and I got to be mentally tough and physically tough to do it. So how important do you see in all your years has fitness played a role in hunting?
On the elk hunt, up next to the coos deer hunt, it's probably the most important thing. And it's a little different than the coos deer. Coos deer hunting is just hard, right? Big mountains, big canyons. It's just physically it's hard, but usually they're 5 to 7 days. The elk hunt is so long. It's 14 days. So you have to come into shape. And you have to eat right. You know how it is. We ate some of the big meals at camp. The next morning we go out. We had to leave Nicky back one day because he was sick in the truck. You got to take care of your body. Leading into that, like I said, if the rut's bad and there's no rutting activity, it's a slow morning, go back early, rest. And I know guys are probably screaming and I'm very upset at that. It's 14 days. You need to survive the 14 days. You need to have your body. If you have little injuries, take care of them. Don't push yourself to your hurt. Now, as a guide, it's very important because I have to watch. I've had a few clients tap out, and I will lose 2-3 days just rehabbing them, which is fine because I have areas where we can just go sit and listen to elk, and we can make quick little things happen, little wallows and stuff like that. But yeah, it's extremely important on these elk hunts because so you take unit 1, demanding, not too bad. There's some canyons we cross and stuff like that, but it's not crazy. You get a unit 23 elk tag and it'll kill you. It's gigantic, huge canyons. If you're not in shape, you will literally burn out in 3 days. So you got to come in ready to go. And because those elk will grind you in the ground. Like you said, if they start to take off, they're 3 miles ahead of you. You're never going to catch them.
Well, you also, I mean, you're talking 14 days. Let me jump to a different state and think Idaho or Colorado or Wyoming somewhere. You're going to hunt for 7 days. Not only do you got to be in, the reason I believe I want to be in good enough shape is because what weighs on me the most is not the physical part of it. Although Idaho last year was a butt kicking, it was absolutely hellacious. It's the mental part. And the worse shape that you're in, the faster you lose the mental game. Because now I'm tired, I'm exhausted, my knees hurt, my back hurts, and it takes me out of the mental game because you got to stay in the mental game long enough to grind. It's a mental grind. It's always going to be a physical grind. If you can just come to the realization that every hunt you go on is going to be a physical grind and just enjoy that process of it. And for me, all my training every day, multiple trainings a day, prepare me for that. Like I'm going into it going, yeah, this is going to suck. This workout's going to suck. But guess what? I was doing we worked out yesterday. It was rowing, burpees, and then strict pull-ups. And it was a timed workout. And I'm like, this just sucks because the day before was a massive amount of squats and my legs were fried. And I'm like, what was going through my mind as I'm doing those burpees up and over the rower was every burpee that I do up and over this rower is strengthening my legs and my lungs so that when I get to Wyoming in this day 5, day 6, and you're starting to drag tail a little bit, I got enough in the tank to go at finish strong and finish good. So physically helps you mentally keeps you in the grind 4 days, 5 days, 7 days, 14 days, which is, like you said, 14 days can seem like an eternity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially if you come in, guys are out of shape and they're getting their butt kicked from day 1. The mental drive goes way, 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 way down because it doesn't feel good. Nobody wants to, you've been waiting for years and years on this tag, and then after day 1, you're already whooped. And like I said, there's times where I rehab my clients. I had a guy a couple of years ago. He's 80 years old, and we went elk hunting. And in the afternoons, he and I would sit on a log over this wallow and have just a great afternoon. But mornings, we would do what we could. So
put a backpack on and get hiking.
Get out there. You got to get out there. If you can't, get on the stair mill. You don't have to go running. You don't have to run hard. Walk on the treadmill on elevation. I recommend just getting out and go hiking. You can't there's no machine that'll do that for you. Go up to your unit, start walking around, go out, enjoy fresh air. It's good for you.
Yeah.
So
my friend Tom from Wisconsin, he lives in the flatland. And so my hiking program is every night I hike 1.5 miles when I walk my dogs barefoot in my hunting boots because I'm trying to toughen the skin in the hot spots. And they get sweaty and wet, so they move around, so it really toughens the skin. So it's 1.5 miles with a heavy weighted backpack every single night. And then on Saturdays, I add either 2.5 to 5 pounds, depending on how big of jumps I want to do. And I do a 5.5 mile loop up and over my mountain right here. So I do that. I count backwards from my hunt, and I go back to where I can get at least one whole week doing that at 80 pounds. So I'm building from about 40 pounds all the way up gradually. So it's progressive overload. I was telling my friend Tom this from Wisconsin. He goes, I don't have mountains like that. So what I do is when I mow my lawn, I have my backpack on that's weighted because you're stopping, turning, moving around. It just, you can do all the fitness in the world. And I would push somebody to do as much fitness as you can, because I love it. I love pushing myself hard. But at the end of the day, nothing will ever prepare you for backpacking or hiking in the mountains with a backpack on, other than hiking in the mountains with a backpack on. So try to get as much of that in as you can and set yourself up for more success.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't agree more, especially when you, like you said, these elk tags are so hard to come by.
They are. And I tell you, I showed up in elk camp and you and your brother walked me into the ground.
I'm a little older now, JP.
Well, but what people don't realize, I consider myself in pretty good shape, but you guys are doing this all the time. And you're number one. I remember walking out the one thing and your brother's, his steps. I'm like, I'm just going to step in his steps.
Yeah.
I'll never forget this. We're walking out this flat area. I'm like, I'm just going to step in his footsteps and just see if I can't keep up with him. There's like two of them. And I'm like, I'm lunging to try to get there. And now I'm like, I can't. I just got to take my normal steps. And he just passed, just kind of went out of sight. His steps are so long.
Yeah. And that's another thing I want to bring up, JP. If you're with a guide and let's say you can't keep up, or let's say you're getting tired, you need to let your guide know. Or because what good is it if I push you into now it's time to kill and you're wore out, you can't shoot, you can't draw, you can't, be honest with your guide and we could adjust the plan. That's the nice thing is I have enough areas and been hunting these things long enough that I can adjust the plan to whatever I need to. Like I said, I had an 80-year-old guy. We shouldered a bullet, broke my heart. That arrow went in about an inch, fell right out, but we got a shot, So yeah, we can make anything happen. And that's another thing I'm going to lead into. Even if you're a DIY hunter, be prepared. Go on as many different kinds of hunts as you can. Even if your buddy has a cow elk tag, go hunting. Get out there. See how other people do it. Get out there with the elk. Just go out hunting. And you will pick up so many things. That's how we learned, is you just keep going out, immerse yourself into it, and you're going to become a better hunter. Don't watch the videos, go out there. Okay. And that's the thing is the videos, because we've had lots of film crews over the years with us. Those are 6, 7 days, 8 days, 9 days to make 20 minutes. Okay. And they just chop it all in. Get out there and you will hear elk, see what they do. Listen to cows late at night, how they chirp and they mew. You'll hear the bugles. You can tell the different kinds of bugles. Like I say, I can hear a bugle and I kind of know what the bull's doing. The only way I learned that is I heard it, he kicked my butt, and I figured out how he did it. And then, you just put that in, and then eventually you have enough of those in your head where, okay, I know what he's doing. I know what this is going to happen. I know what these cows want to do. There's no way you can get that knowledge without being out there.
Yeah, experience. You got great experience. Well, man, Rick, this has been fun. I can't thank you enough for taking time out. I know you're busy. I know, you serve us here in the valley here, and appreciate you for all your service that you do. And I know it's a weird time. We talked a little bit about it, and in the fire department that I work with, and you guys are on the front lines of trying to keep everybody healthy and safe, and appreciate you for doing that and all your service too. And appreciate you jumping on the Fit Archer podcast and just sharing some tips, tactics, and all the things you've done over the years. I can't wait to hunt with you again.
Yeah, I'm ready.
No matter what it is, and even fish with you. I'll give out your Instagram here in a minute. I'll have you give it out so people can follow you, and you're going to see some. You don't post a lot on there, but most of it is just giant largemouth bass. I'm like, Rick, why not get to go fishing with you, man? Come on.
Yeah, we could do a whole podcast about fishing. I love to fish, JP. To me, fishing is hunting during the summer. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Fish do certain things. They live in certain areas, and you're trying to figure them out. It's the chess game, just like hunting. It fixes when I can't hunt. It gets my fix in.
Well, you figured them out, because you're pulling some big old slobs out of the water. It's impressive.
I will honestly say that's more my brother's a heck of a lot better fisherman than I am.
Yeah, you guys got it figured out. Growing up in Arizona, you guys done really well, and you're a pleasure because you guys do it right. Both you and your brother, and all Dwayne Adams Outfitting. You guys do it right. great experience, great camp, great hunting, everything about it. So I can't thank you enough for jumping on, man.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Maybe I'll come on a little bit again sometime.
Well, we should, we'll talk again after the season, and then we'll get into a little bit of tips on coos deer and some of the late season stuff too. Cause there's people, but I'm getting a lot of requests right now. They just want to know elk, cause everybody's getting fired up. All the elk tags are hitting everybody's office and mailbox. Everybody's like, I got to get ready and I need to know more about elk. You can never learn enough. But like you said, at the end of the day, nothing will replace getting out there and just getting the experience of blowing some stalks and blowing some elk out of the way. And every once in a while, the arrow hits home. You get to put the wall, right?
All right, JP.
All right, buddy. God bless you, Rick. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, bud.